Today on the Word Preacher Podcast, Going to God, the Stone Tables, and the Golden Calf. I'm Brett Jensen, and this is the Word Preacher Podcast. Our Come Follow Me curriculum for this coming week will bring us to Exodus 24 and 31 through 34. So Moses has reached Sinai with the children of Israel, reached that holy mountain, and there they were prepared to worship God. And they do something before he goes up into the mountain and anything else happens. And let's go ahead and read some of the verses about what they did. They offer some sacrifices, and then we'll look at the aftermath of what they do after they've killed these animals and burned them. And here we have Exodus 24, verses 6 through 8. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read in the audience of the people, and they said, "All that the Lord hath said will we do, and be obedient." And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, "Behold the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you concerning all these words." Okay, now, if you can just take yourself out of this situation that we're in, out of the Old Testament, the modern idea that God would, have you take a bunch of animals, kill them, take their blood, though, burn the bodies. This isn't to eat them. Just burn them up. Take their blood and then sprinkle it on an altar and then sprinkle it on a bunch of people. Sounds a little crazy. It's something that our modern idea of who God is does not seem to be compatible with that. But it's vital to understand something. Jesus Christ is the God of the Old Testament. When Jesus was reading from the scriptures, when he was teaching, when he was testifying of the truth of Moses' prophetic call, this is what he was talking about. And because of that, this ritual was a Christian ritual. Now, of course, I'm not advocating go out and get your pets and, do some sort of massacre, get some goats. And I'm not saying we should do that. We have guidance about how we are to worship now. It's a little bit different, but it is, maybe important to understand that this did come from God, that God sometimes asks you, or may in the past have asked other people, to do things that we might not expect. And perhaps you can feel a bit of gratitude that you no longer have to deal with livestock and slaughter them and sprinkle their blood on things. Maybe they feel a little bit of gratitude. Had they known what restrictions we have, they might feel a little grateful that they don't have to worry about having liquor restricted, wine restricted, that they observed several feasts as a part of their faith. And we don't really do that as much. They have a set of scriptures that they could read that really kind of was tailored to their culture and language and society, as opposed to ours, which requires us learn a lot about their culture and language and society. One way or the other, the idea is that going to God, this is before Moses ascends the mountain, going to God requires a little preparation and a little bit of humility. These things are done as a part of the covenant to keep the commandments. This is the preparation that is necessary to receive new instruction from the Lord. These opening steps, these were available to everyone in the congregation. This is something that was invited, that everyone was invited to do. And you can compare this to the way that in modern times we send people at their own expense to go out into all the world and invite people to come to our meetings, to be baptized, to do the preliminary steps. We don't make the same sort of invitations on the doors of our temples. There's a little bit of preparation that's necessary before you go to God. And that's not new, or that's not a strange concept. This is the way it has always been. Step 1, do what you know is right first. Encounter something that's good and do it. And then step 2, by doing it, you're preparing to receive and do more. And when you think of it in this repeating cycle like that, where you have to master what you've been given, and then you get more, and then you master that, and then you get more, it should bring to mind maybe the imagery of rungs on a ladder that helps you to get nearer and nearer to God. All right. Let's talk about the stone table. So Moses received instruction from God. And at the end, he received a physical representation of this instruction. If we look in Exodus 31:18, it reads, "And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God." When we think about the scriptures that we have, they were mostly written by prophets. Even the words of Christ himself that we have in the New Testament or in the Book of Mormon, they're recorded as remembered by prophets and apostles. The artifacts that Moses received were written by God himself. These tables were broken by Moses when he descended from the mountain, which we'll talk about shortly, and they were replaced by tables that Moses wrote for 40 days, as we read in Exodus 34. And those tables were later stored in the Ark of the Covenant. The process by which Moses received this, it's described in Exodus 33 as well, when he initially went. If we look at verses 8 through 11, "And it came to pass, when Moses went out unto the tabernacle, that all the people rose up, and stood every man at his tent door, and looked after Moses until he was gone into the tabernacle. And it came to pass, as Moses entered into the tabernacle, the cloudy pillar descended, and stood at the door of the tabernacle, and the Lord talked with Moses. And all the people saw the cloudy pillar stand at the tabernacle door. And all the people rose up and worshipped, every man in his tent door. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. And he turned again into the camp, but his servant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, departed not out of the tabernacle." So here we have Moses seeing God. And then Moses, being an imperfect man, brought what God had given him to the people. This was a model that God wanted everyone to understand. He speaks to a prophet, and the way that you receive this prophet is vicariously the way that you receive God. This model has not changed from the days of Adam down to the modern time. God speaks through prophets, and the way that we receive them reflects the way that we receive him. All right. The people of Israel did not really live up to what was intended of them. Let's read the first 6 verses in Exodus 32. And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron, and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it. And Aaron made proclamation, and said, Tomorrow is a feast unto the Lord. And they rose up early on the morrow, and offered burnt offerings, and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink, and rose up to play. Now, this seems totally irrational. They saw what God had done in Egypt. They walked across the Red Sea on dry ground. They knew that Moses had bound them by covenant. And they demanded new gods? Why? Well, there's some stuff we know and some stuff we don't. Some of the stuff that we know that they were impatient. Moses delayed coming down, and they were tired of waiting. That's something that I can personally relate to. I mean, I dislike waiting, whether that's in traffic or in line at the post office or the DMV, or even like in Disney parks for a ride. Waiting is not fun. And when lots of people are having to wait, they get less patient and understanding with one another. They get a little grumpy, a little snappy, and that can lead to bad things. One person isn't paying attention in a lot of traffic, you get an accident. If crazy videos of people in Disney parks with their kids that have brawls get posted on YouTube for them to be embarrassed over for the rest of their lives. I mean, it's understanding that Moses was there. They didn't know what was going on. They were feeling impatient. That doesn't excuse anything that they did. And there's some stuff that we don't know. I mean, why want new gods? I'm tired of waiting, therefore I'll make up my own religion. Now, it's possible, we could speculate a little bit, that they just wanted permission to do what they really wanted to do all along. They didn't want to wait to run around with no clothing and commit adultery. It wasn't them that made them that way. The golden calf made them do it. We don't know that was the reasoning, but it's certainly possible. One way or the other, God knew what they were doing. It wasn't hidden from him. They thought, oh yeah, Moses is talking to God. They're not paying attention to us. He knew exactly what was going on. And he told Moses that he was angry with him and that he was thinking about destroying them. Moses passionately pleads for his people, for mercy. And there's a verse here that can be confusing, Exodus 32:14, which reads, And the Lord repented of the evil which he thought to do unto his people. The term nacham is used in several places in the Old Testament, which is this term that is translated as repented of the evil which he thought to do. Repented is not something that God needed to do, and it's not used in exactly that same context. Everywhere else that same term is translated, at least in the King James Version. Well, in most other translations as well. For example, in Genesis 6, when it's used, it repented God that he made man. He was sorrowful over the sins of humankind. The earth was filled with violence. They had strayed from their purpose, and it made him sorry about how bad their apostasy was. The term is also used when Isaac was comforted, is how that's translated, after the death of his mother, and when he married Rebekah. And so was comforted comes from the same term. His mood was changed. And again, similarly, the 23rd Psalm, where it reads, "Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." The term comfort is the translation for that same term. And that's important to understand because God does not need to repent. It's understandable, though, that wickedness upsets him. Sin has a serious effect on him. He's invested tremendously in us. And when we're doing something else, when we're breaking his laws, it really is throwing our attitudes against what our purpose is meant to be. Now, it also, this same change in the context of like comfort, he's moved with compassion when people approach him in humility, so much patience when they plead for help. He desires to extend mercy. And Moses, who passionately pled with the Lord for mercy, came down from the mountain, having expressed this passion, and God was convinced that he was moved with compassion. But when Moses finds them, we get this from the guy who passionately said, "Oh, please forgive them. They're just, they may have some problems, but please love them." Comes down, he sees them, and this is what happens. Exodus 32, 19 through 20. "And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh unto the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot. And he cast the tables out of his hands, and brake them beneath the mount. And he took the calf which they had made, and burnt it in the fire, and ground it to powder, and strawed it upon the water, and made the children of Israel drink of it." That's absolutely incredible. How do you feel about the seriousness of your sin? How does it taste? Drink it. And then Moses calls Aaron to account for what happened. We read starting in verse 21, "And Moses said unto Aaron, What did this people unto thee, that thou hast brought so great a sin upon them? And Aaron said, Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief. For they said unto me, Make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And I said unto them, Whosoever hath any gold, let him break it off. So they gave it to me. Then I cast it into the fire, and there came out this calf." So we really don't know more than what it says, all of the pressure that Aaron was under. But it is kind of funny that Aaron claims he just put the gold into the fire, and then the calf, came out as though he had no part in this. One way or the other. We don't know all the details, but I thought that was interesting to see. Moses did not think that was very interesting. He went to the gate of the congregation and called out, "Who is on the Lord's side?" And those that gathered toward him were commanded to draw their swords and kill the others. And they killed about 3,000 men who refused to be on the Lord's side. It may seem kind of harsh. That response to sin, even in modern times, may seem harsh. Our current responses to sin sometimes are considered harsh. Why doesn't God just love us and let it go? But only in the context of not knowing how harsh it is to sin against God does it seem harsh, particularly after participating in ordinances and making covenants that we will not sin, but keep his commandments. This is a huge contrast that we can see between those who discarded the commandments in favor of golden calf worship and those who preserved these commandments to be carried inside of the Ark of the Covenant as a permanent part of their faith. The principles of humility, obedience, and faith are found not only in the stories of Israel going to God, but they are meant to be a part of your story, your journey to go to God. We appreciate all the support for the Word Preacher podcast. Next week, we will look at Exodus 35 through 40, talking about, and also Leviticus, talking about the law and the tabernacle. Of course, there's a ton of stuff we did not cover in this week's reading. Please study that individually and with your family. And of course, as always, fight on.